Tate Morgan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Michael. How are you?
Good. So, in the IT industry, which is my background, we say if you can't measure it, you cannot manage it.
Correct.
So, when we're doing marketing, and I learned this on Facebook a while ago because I'm also a photographer, I was looking for some mentors, and one potential mentor asked me to go onto Facebook and look at these metrics, and I was astounded. I didn't even know the metrics were there.
Mhm.
And I think the point you're getting to is if you're not looking at the productivity of your marketing,
Mhm.
you can't adjust it accordingly, right?
Correct. That's exactly it. And even brought back to the bigger picture of the business itself, when you're thinking about the goals that you want to reach and how you want to get there, you really have to break down what it's going to take to achieve those goals. If I want to do $100,000 in the next month, I need 100 new clients. And to get those new clients, each of them have to pay me X amount. And I can spend, maybe my cost per lead needs to be $50 for this to be profitable. And so I need to bring in X amount of leads and be able to convert X amount of leads. So if you know these numbers, if you know how many people it will take to get you to your goal and you know how much you're willing to spend to get there, you can really break your marketing down and just say, okay, if it's not producing the way I need it to, then it doesn't need to continue.
I had a question for you about calls that I've been getting,
Sure.
and I know other people are getting these calls.
Hmm.
The script goes like this: Hey, so we'll collect all of these leads for you. We have a website, and people are going to call us, and then we're going to give you leads. How does that sound? Do you know about this? Was this legitimate business? How does this work?
Yeah, it's absolutely legitimate business most times. What I always get hung up on is you have really no control over.
Okay.
And so, yes, those people will send you leads, and oftentimes they are legitimate leads. There are a couple of providers, and I'm not big on disparaging anybody, but there are a couple of lead services that I've heard firsthand send you cat and dog calls and still charge for them. And so
Right.
that's another risk you run is you don't have any control over the lead flow. If this company goes out of business or they want to shut you down, maybe they come in and they buy a competitor in your neighborhood and then they say, okay, all of these leads are going to us now.
Right.
You have no way of stopping that. And if you haven't done your own work, whether it's SEO or PPC or establishing a brand in your neighborhood, which I'm huge on brand. I want people to walk around knowing your name and not just knowing you when they search for you. So I'm big on brand. And if you're not established for yourself, then those lead buying services can just turn your business off at any given time. The lead buying services are great, especially if you're getting started first and foremost, because you're only paying when a lead is coming in. But at the end of the day, you want your customers to be your customers and not the customers of a lead buying service.
That's quite insightful. The other question I had for you, last time we spoke, you blew my mind with an idea of direct marketing.
Sure.
And you said, okay, so you have a client. So I have a client that has a problem that we call a raccoon latrine in the backyard.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking maybe I should do what Tate said and get some postcards and send it to the neighbors and say, your neighbor has a raccoon latrine.
Hmm.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we see work a lot. If you're keeping a good log of your leads and you happen to notice that two, three, four people in the same neighborhood on the same road, they all have raccoon problems, or you have someone like the client you've run into that has a raccoon latrine in the backyard, the USPS has a service called Every Door Direct Mail.
Every door direct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what you can do is you can print up a postcard. You can go to USPS.com and look for their Every Door Direct Mail program. You pick a mail route. So literally a carrier goes into work, picks up mail for a particular route, goes out to their truck and delivers all of that. You can choose those carriers' routes. And you can say, okay, I want to deliver a stack of these postcards to my post office, and I want the carrier to put one in every box on that particular route. And USPS charges significantly less for this than if you're stamping an envelope and sending it. If you buy the mail in bulk through their website, I believe it's 11 cents a mail piece versus I think it was like 59 cents the last time I mailed something. So you have a little bit of a discount there. Now you have to factor in your printing as well. That's only going to run you 80 to 150 bucks, depending on where you're getting it done and what kind of
Okay.
work you're doing. But that takes us to your question of, does it need to be pretty? And I firmly believe that it does not need to be pretty.
Okay.
In 2024, more than ever, people aren't expecting to get direct mail to them that makes sense for them. 9 times out of 10, someone who's doing direct mail is just blasting a piece out there and hoping that the right person picks it up. But a really good example of this, and someone in my own neighborhood who does this quite well, there's a tree trimming service. And anytime they're servicing someone on my road, I will have a letter in my mailbox the week
Ah,
before. And all that letter says is just a plain white postcard with black text. It looks like it's handwritten, but it's clearly typed and printed. And it says, "Hey, this is Jim at Tree Service. We're going to be in your neighborhood servicing someone down the road from you. If you also need tree service, feel free to call us and book because we're right down the road. We can come service you the same day." And every single time that stands out to me because it's like it's calling right out to me. And then if next week I look and there's a tree trimming truck down the road, then I know these guys are real. They show up, they do what they're supposed to do. And we can do the same thing in wildlife removal and in pest control. And it's especially powerful in pest control because you want to do things on such a route basis where you're setting up monthly or every other month services and you want to build out that route. Hitting an entire mail route is a great way to build your own pest control routes. Or if you hire on a new operator and you want to fill their route out and have their days full and busy, you can
wow.
send out a direct mail piece down an entire route and maybe get them 2, 3 clients to start. And then you do it again, 3, 4 clients. And every single time this compounds until someone has a nice full route. And you skip the part where you have to send people out and knock on doors and people have to be good salespeople at the door. And granted, you still have to be a good salesperson when you get
Right.
there and be able to educate and work with a client in the right way. But this really establishes the brand in a relevant way that makes sense to people.
Fascinating. So when we're talking about metrics,
Hmm.
the other thing we talked about on our last podcast, which was great by the way,
Well, thank you.
you mentioned that people underestimate the power of Facebook marketing. That
Hmm.
you can really tune your ads pretty tightly. How do we do this?
Facebook used to allow you to get really scary narrow with your targeting. I'm talking about if I wanted to show you an ad, I might find people who have displayed a search interest in wildlife removal marketing concepts, are between a certain set of ages, are a certain demographic, are
Okay.
male, and live in a zero point 0.1 kilometer radius of a certain spot.
Okay.
And what happened was Facebook started getting in trouble because advertisers were using that to their advantage in ways that are not legal in real estate
Oh,
and finance markets.
okay.
Hiring markets is another one. There were situations where advertisers were excluding demographics that are protected by the equal employment opportunity. And so Facebook had to go in and retool the way that their system allows you to target. And we lost a lot of that targeting capability. So the challenge then became, okay, how do we get in front of people who are relevant to what we are offering? And oftentimes, with something that's incidental, like wildlife removal, it feels impossible. And on the surface, it's if they're not searching for it, they're not going to see us when they need us. And while that is true, there are some workarounds to get people to virtually raise their hand or digitally raise their hand. And this is the kind of the core of making Facebook ads work for an incidental service like wildlife removal. What you would do is you would start with a video, and that video should be 45 seconds to a minute long. And
Okay.
you post that video as an ad. And in that video, you call out directly the person that you want to speak with in this ad because advertising is all just communications. It's you talking to another person and it's you in front of the camera and it's a person, a human being on the other side of the screen. And you just need to treat it that way. And people will respond more to your advertising. You would do is you would call out the person you want to talk to. And in your case, you might say something along the lines of, hey, if you're a homeowner in the St. Petersburg, Florida area, and you have heard scratching in your attic, stick with me for the next 45 seconds of this video. You would introduce yourself, your business, what you do, maybe read off a testimonial or two from people who have used your service and had the
Okay.
problem solved. And then a quick call to action, something along the lines of, so if you're hearing scratching in your attic, book an inspection with us today so we can come out, take a look, tell you what might be in your attic, and tell you a plan to get it out and keep it out. And so you'd put this together as a video ad. And what Facebook allows you to do is build a secondary audience that you can then advertise to later based on how long they stuck around on that video. And so people who watched through 45 seconds or more of that video are virtually saying, hey, that made sense to me. I needed to hear that whole message because I was curious how I would solve this scratching in the attic problem that I have right now. And now you can come back and show them a secondary ad that says, you've got animals. We know how to get them out. And really hammer home, hey, here's what we can do for you. Here's how we approach this. Here's how you can get in touch with us. Here's how we can solve this problem today. And so the reason we lead with a video in this instance is that video views on Facebook are so cheap versus link clicks or someone
Oh,
filling out a form on Facebook.
okay.
If you only showed them the link click or the form, a link click on Facebook can be anywhere between $2 and $5 a click. A form submission can cost you upwards of $15 or $20. And so if you show them the video first, then you only show the more expensive ads to people who virtually were able to say, hey, I watched this video. This made sense to me. They don't have to interact at all. So you don't have to get charged for a click or for a form submission. Video views are pennies on the dollar when it comes in comparison to a click or to a form submission. And so you lead with the video views, get those people who watch your whole video, and then show them the more expensive ad. They've proved their intent, they've proved their need, and hopefully they see you, recognize your brand, and are able to reach out to have their problem solved.
Wow, that's brilliant. In that first ad,
Mhm.
is our target audience simply geographic?
Yeah,
Or are we honing it down tighter than that?
we would want to go simply geographic in that case. The reason being, the wider and broader your audience, the less it's going to cost per click, because the
Okay.
more you rely on Facebook's automation to find the right people versus if you have to tell Facebook, hey, we need this specific person, this specific demographic, this specific interest group, this specific, all these different
Right.
lines. Facebook has to narrow it down and you become a supply and demand situation. And now you're competing directly with all of the other people who want that very specific market.
Okay.
Yeah. And so those cost per clicks go up, those video views costs go up, cost per form submission goes up. And so you go real broad and just use that first video as a funnel just to catch the people who have that displayed interest. And then that secondary audience to show the more expensive ad to. And you'll really bring your cost per contact down when using Facebook.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. What else can we bring to our audience tonight? I know we're on a shorter time frame, and that's my
Mhm.
fault. What things can we address in our remaining few minutes?
Yeah. So I really just want to urge people to not be afraid to research marketing. When you go online and you look into all of these different pieces and parts that might exist in the marketing world, it can be overwhelming. And I'm empathetic to that because everyone's got a different perspective, a different point of view. There's a million people trying to sell you something, and it's hard to make heads or tails of what's actually valuable and what's not. Marketing itself, it really is, it's just communication and communicating with people. You have a foundation, that's your website. You have your paid opportunities, so your search ads and your Facebook ads. You've got your not paid opportunities, your organic stuff. So the stuff you post on Facebook and how people find you on your website. So your SEO and your Google business profile. But if you think of things in broader buckets like that and you set a goal for yourself, you don't have to learn everything under the sun to be an effective marketer or an effective advertiser. and be able to grow your wildlife or pest control business, set a goal for yourself and just ask yourself, how can I learn what things I need to do to reach that goal? Pick one platform, pick a particular thing that you want to try out, learn that. And if it works really well, great. And if you find that it's not working, then find another avenue to try. Eventually, you will land on something that sticks and you will continue to grow that and build that. So I think that would be the biggest key, is really just how to think about advertising in a way that is less intimidating and puts you in a position to be an effective advertiser while also being an effective operator.
I'm particularly fascinated with this direct marketing idea. And I like the idea of picking a route because, look, time is money, wear and tear in the vehicle is money, gas is money. If you can pick the routes that make sense to you as an operator based on work that you've already done, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And from less of an advertising standpoint, more of a business ops standpoint, one of the questions that a lot of our clients have is, okay, there's a lot of companies out there. The big companies are all offering free estimates. We can't do that because we have to drive, we have to put time in. And how do we get to a place where we can compete with someone who's able to come out for free? And this kind of answers that question, because if you're able to have 5 estimates on one road in one day, and you know that you can sell one out of those 5, it makes a lot more sense to be able to offer a free estimate program, or to be able to say, yeah, I can come out and take a look at it. No problem. No, we don't have to charge for that. When you know that you're going to, you got a 1 in 5 shot, you might close all 5, or you might only
Right.
close 1 in 5. But at any rate, driving to one location once for 5 opportunities is a lot better math than driving to 5 different locations, putting all those miles on your vehicle, spending that time away from your home, away from your family, away from your business, and then still having that same 1 in 5 odds.
Yeah. Could we talk again about what metrics are going to be the most critical? Obviously, if I'm sending out postcards, my response rate
Mhm.
is the measure of success, right? The number of people that call me from that mailer.
Yeah, so that would be one measure of success, and that would be what we would call a primary goal. A primary measure of success would be the number of people who actually reach out to you. A good secondary metric to follow along with is how many people visit your website or take the action that you asked them to take on the mailer, or a secondary action. Now, the way that you would do this is Google, by and large, gives us a lot of tools to do a lot with data. One of which is Google Analytics gives us a really cool opportunity to be able to track external link clicks through a tool called UTMs. And what UTMs are, a little string of text, a little string of code that you apply to the end of a link. And it usually comes after a question mark. We can create these for ourselves for Google Analytics using a UTM creator tool. And these are free. You can, if you just Google search the letters UTM and then creator, you'll pull up a bunch of different options to have a UTM creator tool. Essentially, what this does is it allows you to see in Google Analytics where particular traffic came from, especially if it's external traffic. The way that we use this when it comes to direct mail is creating a QR code or creating a specific link for your website using a link shortener like Bitly. But we really like the QR codes because, especially with the demographic who tends to hire wildlife removal, they like to use QR codes. They know how to open the camera and scan one of those codes and go to
So
the
that
website.
QR code is going to be right on the flyer.
Correct. And that QR code, rather than just linking directly to your homepage, links to your homepage with this UTM tag associated. And nothing changes for the user. So when someone scans that QR code, nothing changes for them. But what you get is, in Google Analytics, you now have a category that
Hmm.
says this came
Brilliant.
from mailer. And so you can
Brilliant.
segment and say,
Wow.
okay, these users came to my website via the mailer. Yes, maybe only 2 people called me, but 40 people came to the website. And so now you can use that information. You can either retarget them on Facebook because you know that they had an interest, so they may have a wildlife problem. You can follow them around on Facebook with retargeting ads for the next 6 months, just in case they have a wildlife problem at some point in time. What we're finding more and more, especially as the economy seems to soften a little bit right now, is that people are sitting on wildlife problems a lot longer than they did before. And so you might have people who have said, hey, I've heard scratching for 3, 6, 9 months, and they haven't taken action yet. And so someone might see that mailer, say, hey, this makes a lot of sense to me. I do have scratching in my attic. I do think I have a raccoon. The neighbors down the street have a raccoon, but I don't have the money to do it right now. Now you've got their trackable data, and you can follow them around on the internet with retargeting ads until it's the right time for them to buy. Because off of one incidental touch, we don't know someone's buyer's window. We don't know when they're ready to commit to a purchase. If we can stay in front of them until they are ready, our odds of being the person they choose or the business they choose go up.
Blew my mind again, Tate. It's amazing. I just have a technical question because I'm a
Sure.
technical guy.
Yeah.
The UTM code
Hmm.
doesn't require me to modify anything about my website. It's simply a code that I'm going to embed, and this UTM code application is going to allow me to create like a URL that passes through, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I could actually share my screen and show it real quick
Okay.
if that's all right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let me give you a quick screen share here, and I'll just show you the process, because this is really, it's pretty simple to manage, and I think this would be pretty helpful. So you're going to see a Google Chrome tab first. I'm just going to type in UTM creator. And this first one is the one that I always use. There's like a million options of URLs and UTM creators. It's always gadevtools.google. It's the one I
Okay.
go to. And so if I click on this, I have my website URL, which is where I want people to go to. And so in this case, I'm going to use my own URL, which is animalcontrolmarketing.com. So now I want to say, what do I want the source to be? When I look in Google Analytics, what should it tell me the source of this was? And so if I'm doing a direct mail piece, I'm going to say mailer.
Okay.
The source of this traffic was from a mailer. And now the medium kind of applies more to digital traffic, because you'd be looking at like your Google and then what part of Google it came from. But in this case, you could probably just put QR. That
Okay.
way, you know that it came from the mailer and it came because they scanned the QR code. And then you're going to add a campaign name. This is what's going to tell you in Google Analytics what part of which campaign you ran, because you're going to want to use mailers and QRs again in the future. So we might say
So you can differentiate your campaigns one from another.
raccoons, St. Pete. So I might do that. And what happens, and I'm sorry, important to include the HTTP or the HTTPS, or it will not give you the link. So now what you see here is this is our link. We have animalcontrolmarketing.com and then the question mark, as I mentioned, and then a
Oh.
string of information. So now if I copy this, if I connect a QR code to this, what that's going to do is it's going to pass all of this information anytime someone visits my website by scanning the QR code because you visit this link. If I go straight to my browser and I type that link in, it's going to take me to my website. Nothing looks different about the website. We can still browse the whole website as expected. But what happens is when I go into Google Analytics, and this will throw my data guys off a little bit now because they're going to be like, when did we send a mailer? But now I'm going to see in Google Analytics a source with mailer, a medium with QR, and a campaign name with raccoon St. Pete.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so you have to change nothing. It's a real quick process, and you get all of that extra data that way, and it really just allows for you to make the most of all of your marketing efforts. And on that note, not just direct mail, but anywhere that you are doing advertising, you should be using UTM codes. That way you know what campaign, how they interacted with your stuff. So if you're running Facebook ads, Facebook actually calls them something different. They call them URL parameters, but it's the exact same thing.
Okay.
And all that does is passes data about that particular person and that particular interaction over to Google Analytics so you can segment your information better. Segmenting information in Google Analytics is worth a call in and of itself, because Google Analytics and GA4 go so deep. It's an incredible tool and it's completely free. You pay nothing for it, and it is like the powerhouse of data for people who are interacting with your business and with your website.
Excellent. Tate, thank you so much for your time tonight. Very
Well,
much appreciate it.
I absolutely appreciate coming on and appreciate you having me. I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you so much, Tate. Tate
Thanks.
Morgan, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Take care.